This is the world's first probe zoom lens. In 2025, it's pretty remarkable that we now have an option like this to grab for our productions. In the past, probe lens options have been very limited. Either they were stuck at one focal length, they didn't zoom obviously, or they started at a very slow t-stop of like T14, so you needed a ton of light. They either casted a really bad color and they weren't accurate with their colors on the skin. You know, another thing is that if you wanted a higher quality option like a skater scope, it was just obviously super expensive to rent, and even if you had the ability to rent one, they're very far and few between. In rental houses, they're just very rare, and also you just require a huge camera package to be able to even get the ability to use it. So the fact that DZOFilm has now invented the XTract 18mm to 28mm full frame probe zoom is just pretty remarkable. This is something that has really been game changing. I've had a lot of fun testing it out the past few months. DZOFilm, by the way, they gave me no criteria. They didn't tell me anything about what they needed from me to be able to test this lens. They just sent it to me and they were like, hey, have fun, film whatever you can in the time frame that you can. And that's exactly what I did. I just brought it onto so many different type of productions, music videos, commercials, small shoots for promoting like a show. I've just tried to push the boundaries on how I can use a probe lens that can zoom. Let's get into what I've been able to do with this XTract probe lens from DZO the last few months. By the way, before I get started, I'm actually filming this whole talking head video with the DZOFilm X-Tract probe zoom. I'm at 18mm right now on a full frame sensor. I'm at T8 and I'm also on ISO 800. So if you already know how much light I needed to be able to even get a proper exposure, you already understand the struggle I went through to even make this talking head look fairly decent. So anyways, let's get started. Why do I love probe lenses? The concept of a probe lens to begin with. As a cinematographer, you already are aware that you're the one responsible for picking the right lens and the right tools for each production. Each production is different and they have different needs, but most of the time since I started experimenting and using probe lenses, I gravitate to always grab one in my kit on each job. And it's just simply because of the fact that you can do so many unique things with a probe lens that you can't do with a regular macro telephoto lens that usually are like 60mm or 90mm. I just love how they're able to capture details and just really create a surrealistic image, because not only is it a macro lens and it's just a magnification that it does to objects that it's so close to, but it's also providing you and keeping a wider focal length, which again is very different from a traditional macro lens. So it just creates a very unique shot, and it's something that's so popular nowadays in the past few years on bigger commercials, because it just gives you that bigger than life type of look. And one of the most popular cliche ways of using probe lenses is obviously to capture eyeballs and the retinas. If you expose super ton amount of light onto the eye, you can get the eye moving and dilating. So probe lenses just have such a unique practical use, and now that DZO has introduced the first zoom probe, you can do so much more with it. What really makes the XTract 18 to 28mm is the fact again that not only are you stuck at 24mm like most probe lenses on the market, you now have that zoom range, which is 18mm all the way up to 28mm. And for the most part, on a full frame sensor, that covers most of your wide focal lengths. So you really have unlimited capabilities on how you can compose your shot, how you can frame up your shot, how you can use it within blocking, because you can go much more wider than 24mm, and you can zoom at the same time. So you can create, if you're moving the camera, a Dolly effect. So if you have it on the Dolly, you can Dolly, zoom Dolly, the most famous Spike Lee type of shot. The DZOFilm X-Tract probe zoom just allows you to move much quicker as a creator. You don't have to worry about changing focal lengths to be able to get different type of coverage. You can stay on one probe zoom and just not have to worry about moving the camera. You can just zoom in and out and create the shot that you need. Probe Dolly zoom, that is what has now been introduced with DZO inventing the first zoom probe. And now you could create unique immersive shots while you're zooming in and out, and if you're moving the camera forward or backwards on a Dolly. The first time I actually got to try out this technique was unexpected. I hadn't planned for it. I was filming a music video. We were about to do the last scene, and I was having a conversation with the art director, and he had told me he brought a chessboard. Now, when he told me that, I knew exactly what I was about to do. I told the director, like, hey, the art director brought a chessboard. I know a unique shot we can do for a performance take with the two artists that we were filming. So we set up the chessboard. I put the zoom probe on the Dolly, and really we just created such a unique, dope shot that otherwise it wouldn't have been possible because of the Dolly effect. While we were moving the camera forward, I would also be zooming out to create that parallax effect at the same time. So we would go through the chess pieces and we would have the artist move the pieces or knock a piece down or place a piece while we were just using the probe lens and getting all the way in the chessboard. So it was such a unique shot. The artists were just ecstatic about it, and I knew at that time that DZOFilm had something on their hands with the XTract probe zoom. The very next day, since I already had the lens, I was filming a promo for my friend Dariel Amon. He had a show coming up and he just said, hey, let's just film a little promo so I can promote the show and sell some tickets. So we went to Corona Park. All I just came up with was like, hey, let's just buy some flowers. You're gonna be a florist, and I'm just gonna use again the Dolly and the probe zoom to just frame up and block the scene so we can reveal you at a certain point. So we just covered the lens all the way through with the flowers and the plastic of the flowers, and while he would grab a flower out, we would zoom in. At the same time, we would be dollying a little bit backwards, so it would just create again that unique immersive effect. And he said it was one of the favorite pieces of content he's filmed. I thought it was just very unique. We didn't have any lighting, we didn't really plan for it. It was just like on the spot, an hour before sunset, even though we did get hit and started rolling at nighttime. But again, at T8 and on FX3 at 12,800, I was still able to get a pretty well exposed image. What is the key difference between a probe lens and a traditional macro lens? Well, a probe lens at the end of the day is a macro lens. It has magnification. That's one of the primary reasons you would go and grab a probe lens for a shot, because it has such a huge magnification. This one you can get up to 6 millimeters close at 2.1:1 magnification, so it just makes everything that's miniature or everything that you're close up just look larger than life, because again you have a wider field of view, which on traditional macro lenses you won't be able to get that effect because they're telephoto lenses, typically either 60 millimeters are the most popular, like vintage macro lenses, or 90 millimeters are the more like modern macro lenses. So you have a deeper depth of field and you're wider and you're macro. So it's just something that with all those three elements combined creates a unique image that you're not able to produce with a regular macro lens. And because of the tube shape, you're able to move it through objects, or you can use blocking and framing while you're moving the camera to reveal whatever you're trying to reveal at the end of the take. So it's such a different experience from using a traditional macro lens, which is more catered to photographers. I feel like you're more limited in that sense, but here you have this tube shape, so it allows you to just move through objects to create unique shots. Now, if you're on the market for a probe lens, I think it's a no-brainer to go with the DZOFilm X-Tract 18mm to 28mm. You're getting a zoom probe. It covers most of the wide focal lengths on a full frame sensor, so you don't have to worry about changing lenses. You don't have to worry about you know, losing time on set because you have to change lens so you could get a different focal length. You have an all-in-one package, and it creates a unique effect that you can't typically get before with other traditional probe lenses. And for the way it's built, I don't want to sit here and speak so highly of it because I really have zero flaws with this lens that I could find. It has 300-degree focus throw, so your AC will love it. It has almost zero focus breathing, so your ACs again will love it, and your director will love it because they're not gonna have to worry about your shot being distorted a little bit while you're focusing. Its build quality is solid. It's waterproof on the tube end of the actual lens, so you can place this underwater to get certain unique shots, which I'm testing soon on certain music videos. Most of the way is at the back of the lens, so you don't have to worry about the wobble that you typically have to worry about on other probe lenses because they just had the weight distributed a little bit differently. So if you move through objects, you would have to get to take a couple different times until you would have a stable, solid shot. Hats off to DZOFilm for really innovating in the past few years. They started with the Vespers, which was one of the first full frame affordable cinema primes. Last year they offered us the DZOFilm Arri, which I'm an owner of. I bought a whole set because I think they're the best full frame VistaVision coverage cinema primes on the market for the price. I think they're unbeatable right now. And then now they here are revolutionizing probe lenses, which is something that, again, traditionally has been very, very hard to be able to acquire, to rent, because they were just super expensive, like a skater scope. And then now you have something that is relatively affordable, because all in one you're getting a huge range on the wider focal lengths. It's T8, so it's faster than older probe lenses. And I think it's something that, again, if you're on the market for a probe lens, this is the #1 option to go with right now. I think we have to see what the competition is going to have in store later, but I think DZOFilm, you have to give them credit. They came out with it first, and it's an unbelievable piece of gear. I don't know what else to say. Thank you again to DZOFilm. Huge appreciation for y'all for letting me test this lens out for the past few months. It's been a blast. If you have any questions about this lens, on how to use it, on applications, on how I use probe lenses, or just any questions again at all about the XTract, leave them in the comment section below. I'll see everyone in the next one.